My name is Annette Murphy. I am Sales and Business Development Director at Geo, with responsibility for data centres, systems integrators, service providers and application service providers. It's certainly a sector that has exceptional levels of change underway right now. I think one of the predominant drivers for that change comes from, I guess, very early on in the investment cycle. I think a lot of organisations that have perhaps experienced a dry up in other markets are looking to invest their funds in other areas, and data centres in particular represent a very good means of diversifying otherwise perhaps more risky property portfolios, and you see a lot of new money currently being invested in the area. You couple that with the requirements of end users to effectively offsite data to de-risk, I guess, what is otherwise quite a risky way of storing data, which would be on site. Currently there are only approximately 20% of organisations, corporates that is, across Europe who store their data in data centres. So if you look at the remainder 80%, it represents a huge level of upside for any organisation that's currently investing in a data centre. So it's really at the very beginning of, I guess, what is perhaps a wave of movement from corporates into data centres. The financial turmoil we've seen over the last number of years, however, has taken its toll to some extent. Whilst we are seeing some significant upside in the future with regards to decisions by corporates to offsite their data, on the other hand, they're quite slow to move. With statistics like 80% of investment in data centres last year was made by technology providers. Now, those technology providers are part of the food chain that will serve ultimately corporates. However, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before we were in a position where, I guess, financial markets were contracted, money was available, we did see a lot of investment by end users. So large financial institutions, government were investing in data centres, and those markets really are only just beginning to come back. So there are perhaps four key areas to be considered when an organisation is choosing a data centre. The first of those is proximity to customer. So what market is the organisation choosing to serve, and how close is that data centre to that market? The second is the all-important power. So power is a critical aspect to data centres' success or failure. The more power you have, the more densely you can pack your servers, the more per square foot you can get in terms of revenue. The third, and I guess the area where we focus most, is connectivity. And a lot of organisations focus on securing a data centre without focusing on whether it's connected to anything. So a lot of money and time and effort goes into securing the site, and then all of a sudden it's found that the networks do not go there, and it is very difficult to connect the site. So a lot more money has to be invested than perhaps if that was looked at as a key consideration up front. We do a lot of work with organisations who are looking at very early stage investment in sites, and we help them de-risk their investment through doing surveys for them and consultancy reports, such that they understand exactly what the connectivity looks like before they make the ultimate investment in the site. And we find that works to very great benefit of those organisations, because it reduces ultimately their risk in making that decision. The fourth is really about the environmentals of the site. Is it on a flight path or a floodplain? This has been an area that we've been focused on for a very long time. Our business was founded 10 years ago on the premise that large organisations required control and access to large-scale networks. Because of the original premise of our business, which has remained unchanged, we have a natural gravitation towards these sites, and over 90% of our business is currently driven by data centres. So much so that we now have over 100 sites in the UK connected to our assets. We've recently extended our network to Ireland to connect another 30. To that 100 we've already added to the portfolio over the years. And we're adding approximately 12 sites a year to the network. So I've already talked about the assistance we provide to organisations at the very start of the chain in selecting the site. Once we build a network for those organisations, we offer an open access arrangement whereby any organisation, any carrier that they choose or their customers choose to provide service to their end users can utilise the network we provide. So really the investment is only ever made once. And that represents a significant departure for how the telco environment typically treats the data centre investment. Organisations that we've provided service to on that basis that have benefited from that sort of approach include organisations like Vertus, who are a very up-and-coming data centre provider with sites in Enfield and Hayes. And there are many other examples of where we've worked to good effect with those organisations. What we also find is that our sales footprint tends to be an awful lot larger than perhaps that of the data centre partners that we have. So we provide significant assistance to those organisations also in sourcing tenants for their sites. This is a project that we've been working on for the last 2.5–3 years, and we're quite pleased to say that we launched just before Christmas 2 subsea routes, the lowest latency routes between Dublin and London. We already have a number of customers that are using those routes, and it represents I guess a significant enhancement to our capability in the UK, because a lot of very large technology based organisations, as you may know, locate their facilities and their operations, their European operations in Dublin and in the surrounding areas. So there's a huge market there for us, and one that we're actively engaged in currently. We're the first organisation to come to market with a fibre-based offering. Typically the offerings previously have been wavelength type offerings. So any organisation that comes to us can access its own dedicated fibre network and sell its own services on top of that network unencumbered.